We are the ones who don't know what we're fighting for. Give us a gun and send us all off to war. We are the ones who grow up in violent homes. We are the ones who don't know what's right or wrong. I know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No more. We are the ones who don't know why we're losing score. Give them a badge so they could send us to the morgue. We are the ones who are scared to walk out the door. We are the ones who don't know what we're dying for. I know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more. No. Get off his fucking neck. That makes you know. He can't fucking breathe. That makes you know. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck now. We are the ones who were born into war. We are the ones who just don't give a fuck no more.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest episode of I'm No Joe, your home for all things combat sports, and the place where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. The views and opinions presented on the I'm No Joe channel belong solely to the person expressing them, no one else. If we say it, that means we meant it. That being said, this show does contain adult themes, adult content, and general shit that you shouldn't be letting your kids intake. Be advised, viewer discretion is recommended. Proceed at your own risk. You've been warned. If it's Thursday, it's I'm No Joe. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of appropriate ages, to the Season 8 finale and possibly a solo dolo I'm No Jolo latest episode of the I'm No Joe podcast, the show where every armchair quarterback can feel like Eddie Bravo. So first and foremost, as we say around here, life comes first. Golf T has got some things going on. I have not heard from Christian this afternoon, so as of right now, we are going to fly through this solo dolo. So without further ado, if the gentlemen do happen to show up, Cool. If not, I will do my best to cover their parts and just kind of give you guys a total show by my damn self. Has been a minute since I've done one by myself, but I know I am still fully capable. So that being said, first and foremost, how am I doing this evening? Oh, fucking stress. Today has been very hectic to say the least. It has just been a Lemony Snicket volume of series of unfortunate events. Just shit's been crazy today. So we are here. We are going to dive into punchy kickies as we like to do to start things off around here. We're going to kick it off with a little bit of news and recent events. Now, we did not do a recap show this season. That will likely continue going forward into season 9, which will be starting next week. So first and foremost, unfortunately, starting off the news segment is actually a couple things tying directly to last weekend's combat sports. But if you somehow missed last weekend, there was a metric fuck ton of crazy things that happened, some of which warrant going over again a little bit more, in my opinion, anyway. So first and foremost, scrapped just before it had a chance to even breathe life. Oh, Jack Della Magdalena versus Josiah Harrell, I apologize, was actually scrapped from last weekend's UFC 290 card at the last minute because the pre-fight medical screenings revealed that Josiah had a rare brain disease and had to immediately get scheduled for emergency surgery. One of those rare, weird situations where it's good, where they are actually as thorough as they should always be in pre-fight medical screenings. I wish we saw them be that thorough in, I don't know, the TJ Dillashaw fight, just, off the top of my head in recent memory. But, UFC gonna UFC. But regardless, glad to see that Josiah got the brain disease caught and they are going to get that taken care of. Outlook is supposed to be good. We will definitely follow up on that as news is released. Uno momento, por favor. Sorry. The floating tree sperm in the air is kicking my allergies into overdrive. But that being said, when it got time to UFC 290 last weekend, there was one, count them, just one fighter who did show up off weight. That fighter was Jalen Turner, however he pronounces his name, Jalen Turner. Seems like he might have actually spent a little too much time doing YouTube videos last week and showed up the last person to weigh in overweight and did not take any time to try and cut the subsequent weight and come back in. He just took the 20% purse forfeit and went on to put on a crazy performance against Dan Hooker, who we now know confirmed after their selfies from the hospital Days of Thunder style. The whole, did you break your arm? Just a scratch, ha ha ha. Turns out Dan Hooker's way tougher than we ever thought he was. He knew in, I believe he said the first round, there was a kick that Jalen threw that he felt something crack. And then in the second round, he took a hard shot to the body, or a hard body kick rather, that he tried to block with that arm and he felt it snap. And then the arm just stopped responding the way that he thought it should, he said. But it's completely fucking broken. He is going to have to undergo not one but two surgeries now, because he also broke some portion of his orbital bone. Excuse me, words are hard sometimes. So he has to undergo surgery for that crazy fucking arm break that he still fought and won through. Plus, he broke the orbital bone in the third round. So just fucking crazy tough. Dan Hooker is a fucking beast. Props to fucking him. That being said, coming into this week's news, we've got one right off the top that ties into this week's news. Unfortunately, we found out just the other day, Walt Harris versus Josh Parisian has officially been pulled from this weekend's UFC Vegas 77 card because Walt Harris has officially had some quote unquote, I say with rabbit ears for those listening, USADA issues. There has been a substance, they are saying, Walt is saying
likely from a supplement he has been taking a long time that did not apparently find itself on the USADA approved list, and he never bothered to confirm that, and now he thinks probably might have, maybe allegedly have something in it it shouldn't have, and he seems to have been violated for it. So they're working through that process. We will see how that turns out. As of now, there is no substitution found for Josh Parisian, or have they announced, nor have they announced that they are looking for one. So they're probably just going to put him back on the sideline where he seemed to be pretty comfortable for the last little bit. Hopefully this all gets straightened out, or at least we get a little more information on that situation very soon. We will see. That being said, I still cannot find definitive criteria definition for this. Basically, it seems more like a popularity contest amongst the judges than actual measurable criteria or meritocracy. But John Jones has officially been awarded an ESPY for the best UFC fighter of the year 2023. Take that with whatever accolades you choose to associate with it. I think it's a little bit much, but we'll move on. The ridiculous has been confirmed. Apparently, the arm really is an issue. As of right now, August 19th, UFC 292 in Boston, Massachusetts will now feature Chito Vera versus Pedro Munoz. There's a lot that could be said about that. Why they're not going to make that O'Malley Vera rematch, since they're so bound and determined to push O'Malley where he doesn't belong to be, despite Chito's meritocracy earning him, quote unquote, I say for those listening, earning him the spot that O'Malley is basically getting pushed into. But as we also say on the show, UFC is going to UFC. So there is that. But probably the biggest news in the sports world was teased last weekend, was not announced last weekend, unfortunately, though it probably should have been. It was announced during the week this week, and it has been confirmed by all parties involved. Taking place in Saudi Arabia, October 28th, Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury for a non-title professional boxing match. WBC has confirmed the title is not on the line for Francis Ngannou, but the results of the match will subsequently be reflected on both gentlemen's professional records. So if somehow the craziest shit in the world happens and Francis Ngannou knocks Tyson Fury the fuck out, he will not take Tyson Fury's belt, but that knockout loss will go on Tyson Fury's record, and that will put a professional knockout win on the boxing record of one Francis Ngannou, coming back to MMA, subsequently anticipated for early 2024. So there's all kinds of craziness that could be going on here, but the least likely of which is that Francis somehow mythologically fumbled the bag. This is happening in Abu Dhabi, and I am willing to bet you every bread penny I own they're getting paid big money to go over there and put this fight on. Neither one of those gentlemen would A, accept this fight, or B, put this fight on in Saudi Arabia in October, if not for a very substantial paycheck attached to it, especially given the current climate of the combat sports world, especially given the climate of the combat sports world attached to both of those names right now. Usyk's going to have to sit on the shelf and cry some more. And you know what? I'm fucking here for it. This is what Francis said he wanted from the get-go. Dana tried to stop it from happening. Dana tried to weasel his way in and steal Tyson Fury for John Jones. And fuck them both. it's official. Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. So whether that's going to go the way that everyone thinks it's going to go, or whether it's going to go completely fucking crazy, we will find out as we get a little bit closer to that. But the bottom line is, it's happening. And if this is what fumble in the bag looks like, I'd like next on that ride, please. Good for fucking Francis. And anybody who's trying to talk shit on this or say that this is only to spite Dana has not been paying attention, and you can also go fuck yourself. This is absolutely a great thing. This is something that Francis Ngannou has said for a long time he wanted to do, and Dana White tried to mob style force him out of being able to do this. Here it is. It has been manifested. This is the season of manifestation. Izzy manifested the situation with DDP, though it might not have been the prettiest. The situation with Izzy and DDP in the octagon last weekend was manifested by Israel Adesanya. I've actually linked a video in the Discord server, which, if you didn't know already, the I'm No Joe channel has its very own Discord server, the link to which is not only scrolling along the bottom of the screen during the live broadcast here, it is in the description of every video, every audio, every link to the I'm No Joe podcast should somewhere, or every description of a broadcast from the I'm No Joe channel should in it somewhere have the link to the I'm No Joe Discord server. I have linked in that Discord server the very video that Israel Adesanya talks about how he is manifesting DDP to beat Robert Whittaker, to knock him out so that he can get in the cage, so that he can say exactly what he said to Dricus du Plessis in the cage. And then it happened, and he brought it all to fruition. Israel Adesanya, I'm not one of those that believe in manifestation or speaking affirmations and all that kind of woo-woo kind of shit, but if that works for you, it works for you. It clearly works for Israel Adesanya, because we saw it happen Saturday night. Literally, he called the result, he called the follow-up, he called the situation in the octagon down to a T. The video is there. If you haven't seen it yet, join the I'm No Joe Discord. Pop over, say hi, check out that video. That being said, though, the announcement that they threw out to try and preemptively take the thunder away from what was anticipated to be the Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou announcement was officially confirmed this weekend at UFC 290 by Dana White and the promo reel that they ran, taking place November excuse me, November 11th at Madison Square Garden. UFC 295 has a new main event. It will officially be the GOAT of heavyweight, Stipe Miocic, coming back to take on John Jones for the heavyweight title, and what is expected to be the retirement fight for potentially both of these gentlemen, regardless of the winner. So definitely one that folks are not going to want to miss. This is going to be potentially one of the largest heavyweight events in recent years for the UFC, aside from this Francis Ngannou situation, obviously. That being said, this is the biggest fight to make in my and many people's opinion, and Stipe deserves one last shot at that title. If you've been following his social media, Stipe has been getting svelte while doing his fireman duties, so he's clearly ready to get back in there and kick ass and take names. And I, for one, don't think John is as good at heavyweight, all chunky, as he was in his prime at 205. But we will find out for sure November 11th at Madison Square Garden. So there are a couple more pay-per-views after that for the end of the year, which have some potential interesting matchups that are still rumored right now, waiting for confirmation, ink to dry, official announcements, etc. But as of right now, that is pretty much the biggest late third quarter, early fourth quarter announcement by the UFC so far, and that's a pretty big one. And ironically, it's still after Ngannou versus Tyson Fury, so it's going to be interesting. I believe there is, I'll have to look at the schedule again after the show to confirm, but I believe there is excuse me, a UFC event on the 28th either on the 28th or on the weekend of the 28th, when that Tyson Fury Francis Ngannou boxing match happens. And if you don't think that Dana White and Sean Shelby and Mick Maynard are in the war room scrambling to try and find something to steal the potential MMA fan buys away from that boxing match right now, you're fooling yourself, and you can't believe it. Why must you be such an angry young man? That's a joke for the older fans. That being said, the 2 weeks following 295 at MSG, back down in Sao Paulo, Brazil, Vanderlei Silva, November 25th, will have an official boxing exhibition match against a professional Brazilian bodybuilder. So Vandy's getting in on all of this boxing fun and money to be had, and he was never the worst striker. I wouldn't say that boxing was ever really his strong suit, but he was never the worst striker in the UFC. It could be very, very interesting. That being said, we'll see if it actually comes to fruition or not. And if it does, if it turns out to be the circus that a lot of people anticipate it being. But we'll see. We'll find out as we get a little closer to that. That being said, September 23rd, officially confirmed by EA themselves, will be the full reveal for UFC 5 from EA for multiple platforms. Perfectly timed, considering that I am going to potentially be streaming some UFC 4 on Friday nights here on the YouTube channel for season 9 of the show going forward, starting maybe next weekend. We will see. But we will talk a little bit more about that later on. That being said, UFC 5 is on the horizon. They are not announcing the release date as September. The full reveal for the game will be announced in September. So we're still likely not going to see this until probably Christmas time, Black Friday-ish. I don't know. We will definitely, not Black Friday, but Christmas, first of the year. It's late. That being said, it's not every time it happens we get to make this announcement. So since it has, I felt it only just to make the announcement on the show. Luis Pena has officially had his battery charges dismissed completely with prejudice by Florida judge. Not that he wasn't guilty, excuse me, but that he had completed some anger management classes, and with accordance to a previously set plea agreement with the prosecutor, that was enough to get those charges dropped. So it's not that he didn't hit his partner with closed fists, beat her about the face and chest area with closed fists. It wasn't that he didn't hit the second woman who was just walking by and saw him striking his partner with closed fists about the head and neck area and attempted to intervene and got struck herself in the head and neck area, or about the head and neck area, with closed fists from Luis Pena. It wasn't either of those situations. It was that Luis Pena completed an anger management class, and that was enough for the prosecuting attorney to dismiss those charges. So that being said, Luis Pena has completed his anger management class and the charges have been dismissed. Sadly, still more than other people have done in regards to their situations, more punishment that they may have had to face, but that's neither here nor there. Moving on. Ray Sefo officially confirmed this week. Moving forward, the PFL has officially partnered with USADA for a drug and supplement violation testing regimen similar to the UFC's, to the same degree, to the same caliber, with the sole exception the PFL is not going to require constant location notification and issue violations for that. Each fighter has to give the notification, has to give the location of their training home gym, their personal home and any vacation home they may frequent more than once or twice a year, and they have to be able to be contacted at one of those places. But they will not receive location violation like UFC fighters do if they don't report into or get subsequently a test missed by USADA. So there's a lot to be said about this whole situation. The fact that USADA is a company that is not wholly biased in any way, shape, or form, and is a for-profit company and is not above scrutiny or a perfect example of their own standard in the field. But this is seemingly a step in the right direction, a step forward from where they clearly were in the wrong with 9 or 10 tests in a row popped within a week. So we'll see. Excuse me. That being said, none of the last couple of things I've got here are happy. So if you're listening for happy news, just send that bird out the window. It's gone. Following the devastating loss last weekend, we saw it in the cage, but it was subsequently reeled back by his team, and the official statement has been issued from Jimmy Crute. He is not officially retiring, despite taking the gloves off and throwing them down last weekend, and it very much looked like a retirement, which a lot of people thought was going to come if he got a bad loss like he did. But Jimmy Crute has officially announced he is not retiring. He is going to step away from MMA, take some time off from what he calls an unhealthy obsession with his UFC career. So whether that means we see Jimmy Crute again or not, we don't know for certain, but at least for the time being, Jimmy's going to take some much needed and clearly much deserved time off, and that's a good thing. On the other side of that coin, though, we did get word first in tweets, then in a follow-up video, that following his vicious knockout loss, submission loss, vicious loss period last weekend, Kevin Lee has officially decided to retire from MMA and the UFC. To his credit, he said, I gave it my best every time I went out there and did the best that I could, and it just clearly wasn't enough, and there's only so much you can put your body through, and I put my body through enough at this point. So it's never happy or exciting to see a guy, retire, but especially coming off of a vicious loss like this. But at the same time, we say it all the time on this show, I would much rather see a guy hang him up when he is still able to form complete sentences and walk with his children in a straight line without assistance than the opposite. So we know where Kevin Lee fits into all this, and it's not in the UFC like a lot of us thought, but that doesn't mean we wish him ill or anything like that by any stretch of the imagination. So hopefully Kevin can be continually more successful than his fucking dumbass brother. Hopefully Kevin starts a food blog and it becomes the more successful one or something of that nature. Either way, I don't care. Fuck his brother. But Kevin Lee has to retire from UFC and MMA. So, vaya con Dios, sir. That being said, excuse me. Just announced this evening 3 quick little pieces here. Firstly, not a retirement, but a removal. Zhalgas Zhumagulov falling to 1-6 with his most recent loss has officially been removed from the UFC roster and confirmed by UFC officials has completed his contract and is no longer employed by the UFC, and they are not seeking a renegotiation or a new contract offer with Mr. Zhumagulov. 1-6, and his last 3 in a row were lost decisions. I believe all 3 of them lost split decisions at that. So rough go of things. Fun guy, but just didn't make the grade. That being said, speaking of making the grade, Chael Sonnen remains undefeated, beating those felony charges, officially pleading no contest to aggressive words get hard live sometimes. Aggressive breaching of the peace, and pays a $750 fine. Court case in Las Vegas. Bang the mallet. Case closed. Over and done with. So all of the hubbub from the hotel room and the potential lawsuit and the 4-person brouhaha and the drunk couple and all of that nonsense, it's criminally done now. Whether this moves to a civil court case now or not, we will see. But Uncle Chael beat them felony charges like they were vandally trying to get close, and he can't let you do that. So we'll see how it goes moving forward, if there is anything from that moving forward. That being said, the last minute announcement that we got just this afternoon: JoJo Wood, formerly Joanne Calderwood, is officially now out of what she and many other people were calling her potential retirement fight at UFC 291. No specific details as to why, just that she is out of the fight, and we will see what happens moving forward. She also called it her retirement fight and then hashtagged it never give up, which felt a little bit like mixed signals to me, but maybe I just missed a detail somewhere. But that being said, it will be interesting to see how that plays out moving forward. Luckily for fight fans, though, Miranda Maverick has stepped up and agreed to replace her. They are both waiting contract confirmations. Both parties have allegedly signed the replacement contract and returned them. They are waiting for the UFC to announce that they have both officially been returned, and the fight is now officially changed to announce it officially. But both Miranda Maverick and Priscilla Cachoeira have announced on their side the fight has changed. So we will see how the fight plays out and what happens with what potentially could be the rest of Joanne Wood's career and MMA and the UFC moving forward. So we'll see how that plays out. And unfortunately, once again, we have made it through another week of news cycle where Dana White has still not suffered a single fucking real world consequence for slapping his wife down in Mexico over New Year's. No, contrary to Dana saying it, having to live with the knowledge it happened is not adequate punishment, you motherfucker. Old Uncle Redface still needs to actually pay for his actions, and that hasn't happened. That being said, I'm the only one on the show this evening, so that is all for the news segment, because I don't have anything else that I might have missed. That being said, though, this would be the point in the show where our bona fide young person would come in and tell us about the potential cans and or contenders on this week's card, and he's, as you can tell, not here this week. So excuse me. When am I gonna drink? Excuse me. So I will throw a couple out here real quick. I know it's not going to be as in-depth as Christian's would have been, and I didn't even watch just the fight part of this week's Ultimate Fighter. So if you're interested in that, sorry about your luck. You're going to have to find that part out on your own, because I still haven't seen it yet either. So, but in terms of cans, I know it's low-hanging fruit, but main event, Holly Holm versus Mayra Buena Silva. There is no damn reason that should be a main event, even on a fight night, even on a hangover fight night like this. That is not a main event fight. Premier prelim, maybe co-main event, possibly, but that's not a main event fight. Throw the whole damn thing out. I'm going to give a situational one here. I do this from time to time. I'm going to do it again here. Situationally, I don't think in general this individual is necessarily a can, but I am going to say in this particular situation, they have found themselves one. Tucker Lutz. I don't think Tucker Lutz is terrible, but in this situation, stepping in against one of my personal favorite up-and-comers in the premier prelim fight in Melsik Bagdasaryan, we call him Milky Baghdad Soccer Mom, Sharky Man. We have fun. No, Melsik Bagdasaryan has been on the radar of this show for a hot minute now. That gentleman has so much fucking potential. I can't rightfully call him a contender because I've been waving that fucking flag since long before he got his UFC contract. But I will say in this situation, it definitely shines bright enough, in my opinion, that it makes Tucker Lutz a can. What I will call my contender, though, Estela Nunez. Stepping in against debuting Victoria Dudikova. I think Estela Nunez has got some potential. We'll see how far the two of them can go. They are closing out the prelims on this card. In terms of actual cans, really just one comes to mind to me at a glance on this card. Two, if we're talking personality-wise, because Ashley Evans Smith is flat out just a scumbag, and I'm not saying that just because I don't like her. I'm saying that because we have video and audio proof of her stealing COVID supplies from nurses, and then lying about it when caught and presented with the video and audio evidence of her saying and doing that thing. Aside from many, many other examples, she is absolutely a can. But I would say the other one is what's in the bag man himself, Atman Azatar. Not that I think Francisco Prado is necessarily the world breaker it would require to beat him because he's so good, but Azatar has never really been that impressive unto himself, other than getting confused, like I said a couple shows ago, with other fighters, in my opinion. So we'll see. But that being said, this would normally be the part where I tell you that we don't have sponsors, so we don't have a mid-roll here. If you would like to help support the I'm No Joe podcast and what we do around here, the best way to do such a thing is to go to patreon.com/I'm No Joe. For as little as $1 a month, you can get your name on the end of every broadcast on this channel as a thank you, as well as unfettered access to unaired and literally unairable content, things from behind the scenes, things that we've done that just legally can't make it to the air because of age restrictions and whatnot, but special fun stuff just for the Patreon supporters. We appreciate each and every one of you guys over there, as you will see at the end of this broadcast, no doubt. That being said, this would be the point where I would say that this segment that we would normally be doing gets its own disclaimer, but we're not actually doing that segment. That being said, I'm still going to do that disclaimer. Tapology.com does not in any way, shape, or form sponsor, support, or endorse the I'm No Joe podcast. Yet. That being said, Tapology.com does offer you the ability to make a free account on their website to make picks in fights just like we talk about and do here on the show. They even allow you to make groups of people to make picks on that website. We've created just such a group. We call it I'm No Bookie, also group 965, however you need to find it. It is open to the public. You are more than welcome to come join that group. Put your picks head to head against ours. If you think you've got better odds or a better intellect for fight, literally put your money where your mouth is, metaphorically speaking. There is no actual betting on that website. We just go for points, but put your picks head to head against ours. And if you are interested in doing so, next season, starting next weekend, so next week, Thursday, will be the deadline to get in. If you are listening to this in all audio format, this is coming out the day of the deadline. So if you're picking this up in the all audio platform, it gets released a week after it airs live. That means you have to go as soon as you finish listening to this over to Tapology.com. Make sure you are joined in the group. make sure you have commented somewhere, be it in the group in general, on one of our profiles, in the video comments here on YouTube, over on Spotify, wherever, however you can get a message to one of us to let us know who you are. We are starting an actual Tapology league next season. I'm not sure if it's going to run how long, the whole time, multiple events. That's all getting worked out over this weekend. So if you are listening to this, that has all been worked out. Get your ass to Mars. Over to Tapology. For those of you who are watching the replay over on YouTube here or catching this live on Thursday night, first and foremost, thank you. You're awesome. But secondly, you still have time to figure out what the hell we're doing as we figure out what the hell we're doing and get yourself in. But if you are not somehow registered yet, get in the damn Tapology group. It's fun times. Join the Discord. We talk some shit. It's fun. We also throw a lot of news that doesn't make it to the show over there. So there's some things there you can share. That being said, though, in honor of Tapology with TJ here, let me pull Tapology up right meow. Now I will say I made an official decision last week. As the results of last weekend's Tapology scores did come in, we made a declaration agreement. There was potential history on the line for the bad news numbers. Luckily, we didn't hit that historical number, but it was thanks to what we are calling a humanitarian good charity or good faith effort. Golf T himself, after not one but two dick trips in a row, was at risk of making a historic triple dick trip 3 week in a row low. It was dangerously low for the majority of the card. And then just at the last minute, Vin Dog the Booty Hog himself leapt onto the grenade of dick trips and took that blast unto himself. With still 6 of 13, just below 500, 340 points. Not a terrible score, just not enough to beat Don with 8 of 13 and 440 in the next place up. That being said, number one last weekend was handled by yours truly. 475 points, 8 out of 13 right. 1 decision correct, 1 perfect fight correct. Too hot. Now I will say Christian was right there on my ass, just aiming at the back of my fucking head with his sniper rifle for the vast majority of that card. He finished, just 20 points behind me with 7 out of 13 correct, 1 decision, 1 perfect, 2 semi-perfects. So he was definitely chomping at my heels, but Donna was chomping right at his heels with 445, 8 of 13 correct, no decisions, no perfects, 3 semis. So it was very close. Golf T tied there with Donna, same exact score, 8 of 13, no decisions, no perfects, 3 semis. Kind of makes you wonder what happened to that inside source over in that neck of the woods, especially with some identical scores just above Don's, by the right, at 440. They beat him by 5 points. Both of them beat Don by 5 points. Now, let me be very clear. I am not saying that this is a tinfoil hat. This could absolutely be a tinfoil boat. Put it on water, see if it floats. Or you could put it on your head. Just saying. I'm just saying. But this coming weekend, I am not going to go to crazy odds maker websites because the odds ain't my give a fucks. That being said as well, the vast majority of every single fight on this fucking card, with the exception of, I believe, 2, are just literal coin flip plus 100 minus 100. Un momento. Sorry about that. As I mentioned, allergies are just killer right now, especially considering it's about to storm here. It stormed earlier today here. Crazy days. That being said, okay. Yeah, I'm not going to use the MGM bet, MGM or DraftKings or any of that ridiculous nonsense because I don't endorse any of that. And the state that I live in doesn't have legal sports gambling for some fucking reason. We have legal recreational marijuana and get stoned up my ass legally, but I can't put a $5 bet down on a fucking UFC fight that anybody can see. It's clearly going to make some money. Anyhow, let's pull up the UFC website. UFC Fight Night, HolmVsSliva here. Odds, coin flip even. Odds, coin flip even. First big odds change here. Tyson Nam versus Azat Maksum. Tyson Nam actually a plus 310 favorite to the debuting Kazakhstani at minus 410. I would absolutely put $5 on Tyson Nam if I were a sports betting individual, but alas, I cannot be. Elder Valdez, coin flip even. Ringo Costa, coin flip even. Estela Nunez, ironically, and Victoria Dudikova, coin flip even. Nunez, the plus 175 underdog to the debuting Russian at minus 205. I would absolutely throw $5 at Nunez if I could. Bagdasarian Lutz, coin flip piece right where they're at. Ironically, UFC not showing odds for Terrence McKinney versus Nazim Sadikov. I would think, based on experience, McKinney would be the favorite here versus the debuting Sadikov, but with no odds on the UFC website, couldn't tell you for sure. That being said, I do think it's ironic as fuck that the UFC website itself has Chelsea Chandler ranked number 15 at women's featherweight, which I didn't realize there were 15 women in the women's featherweight division, as the plus 120 underdog to the number 13 minus 140 favorite, Norma Dumont. Very, very interesting, in my opinion. Iron Turtle versus Albert Duraev, coin flip apiece. I am glad the UFC actually has odds in the Iron Turtle's favor, as I believe they should be. A Zatar versus Francisco Proto is actually minus 105 a Zatar to minus 115 Prado on the UFC website. So I'm not sure that's how odds are supposed to actually work, but I would definitely agree that they should be more in Prado's favor. The only big odds on this card, which I think pretty much everyone agrees with, is the replacement that we talked about from last weekend moving up to this weekend. Jack Della Magdalena not only getting bumped off last weekend's card onto this week's card, but then getting the bump up to co-main event for this weekend's card, which I feel is probably the least they could fucking do. And I hope at this point, having two opponents in a row fall out on him, they have taken care of him financially on the back end of that as well, with a locker room bonus that Dana is allegedly supposed to give out. We'll see though, or maybe we won't. You never know. But I hope they have. That being said, biggest odd difference, period, on this card. JDM as a minus 625 favorite against the newcomer Basel, I believe it was Basel Hafez, as a plus 440 dog, which, look, it's the UFC. We say it all the time. Anybody in the UFC has got a puncher's chance at the very least. But man, with everything that JDM has been through in the last couple of weeks, and then with last weekend's heartbreak right at the last moment, you better put on a hell of a show if you expect to get past JDM, let alone make enough of a performance to steal any of his damn thunder coming into this weekend, especially now that they bumped him to co-main event, which I agree with. Go JDM, we'll see. And there's the main event, which is laughable, at Holly, a minus 170 favorite versus Mayra Bueno Silva at a plus 145 underdog, which I believe those odds are actually probably backwards and should be a little further from where they're currently at numerically, but we'll see as we get a little closer to that. That being said, this is not a great hangover card, even in terms of International Fight Week hangover card. This feels very much like we had a couple weeks back, or like a month or so back, where they were just throwing Picasso style fights to see what stuck, and then we got that as a fight night. This kind of feels like one of those. That being said, there are still some potential interesting matchups on this card, like I mentioned earlier. That Tyson Nam fight early in the prelims is got potential fireworks in it. Evan Elder fight could be interesting. Austin Lingo versus Costa could get interesting. Estela Nunez fight I expect to be pretty interesting, but also has the potential to be a 3-round snoozer. Premier prelim fight I expect to be potentially exciting, but again, also has the potential to be a 3-round snoozer just because of the way it works out. Nothing really spectacular on this card. Nothing I feel like is getting really slept on. Nothing I feel like is getting overhyped other than the main event. Obviously, that doesn't deserve the hype that it's getting. It doesn't deserve any hype, in my opinion. That doesn't deserve a main event, let alone getting one. But here we are. I will say I do feel like JDM versus Basel Hafez is getting a little more hype than it should because of the situation, but I also understand and kind of agree with why it's getting that much hype because of the situation. But it is what it is. That being said, because this is Basel Hafez making their debut and there's not a lot of footage out there, I don't really have much of an educated information type smart guess, I guess you would say, for how I think this co-main event is going to play out. I'm thinking JDM's got that dog in him. We haven't seen an x-ray, but based on what he's gone through, expect fireworks from him. If Basel is smart, Hafez is going to come out going fucking ham and being intelligent, but we really don't have enough to know for sure. We'll see come Saturday night. Same with the main event. We really just don't know enough about Holly because she's been so hot and cold and so on the fucking bench lately, despite her talking shit, which I'm not even going to really get into because that'll get me angry and we're not going to deal with that. But Mayra Bueno Silva just constantly tries to put herself out as a champion, despite her graciously being ranked number 10 right now coming into this fight. I just can't get excited about that fucking main event. I just can't. But I'll tell you what, it's not the only thing to look forward to this weekend. If you are looking for fights, there are plenty to see this weekend, kicking off in just a couple hours from now at 7:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. One Friday Night Fights, because it takes place on the other side of the world, will be kicking off again. Not a lot of name recognition for the average casual US fan, but there is, again, 2 MMA bouts, 10 Muay Thai fights. It is a legitimate mixed martial arts card, and there will be quality fights on that card if you're looking for something to watch with your breakfast over here in the States. If not, tomorrow evening over on the Amazon Prime, One Championship Friday Night Fights 12 is kicking off. Super League versus Kalilov, and Gary Tonin returns to probably get his ass kicked again against Gasanov. Amir Ali-Akbari getting back in there against Dustin Johnson. Very interesting match there. There's a couple of matches that have a lot of potential impact in the MMA world, but not a lot of recognizable average casual names. That being said, it's going to be a fun card as well. But if that's not your cup of tea, kicking off at the same 7 p.m. Central Standard Time tomorrow evening will be BKFC 47, Mundell versus Richmond. The 185-pound title is on the line in the main event over there in BKFC, with a rematch in Josh Dyer versus Jared Warden in the co-main event. Couple interesting matches there on the fight to watch. Pittman versus Tallman is going to be a fight to watch, not because of the fight, but you'll see if you watch. But there is that as well. But there's plenty of combat sports to get into this weekend if that is what you are looking for. That being said, though, that is all I have got for this particular episode. That is all I've got for this particular evening. I hope you all stick around. We will be kicking off next week, season 9, with a much potentially better card than we have got this weekend. Some new things kicking off next week for season 9. And again, that potential giant Tapology event. So if you are not in the Tapology group and you want to get in, get your ass in. If you are hearing this in the all audio format through your podcast consumption platform of choice via anchor.fm/I'm No Joe, first and foremost, make sure your notifications are turned on so you don't miss an episode. But also, once this is finished, get over to Tapology and get your ass joined into the group. Let us know who the hell you are so we can get you into the season coming up here. That being said, Thursday nights, 9:30 p.m.-ish Central Standard Time, youtube.com/I'm No Joe is when we do this live and video format. Then it goes over to the all audio a week later, anchor.fm/I'm No Joe for all the all audio format podcasts of all platforms. It's everywhere: Google, Apple, Spotify. We're all on the good platforms. That being said, if you want to help out, Patreon, it's there. If you're on YouTube and you like what we get up to, thumbs up, make sure you're subscribed, notifications are turned on. On the other side of that coin, though, if you don't like what we get up to around here, first and foremost, what the fuck are you still doing this deep into a podcast you did not enjoy? Give us a thumbs down and then go fuck yourself. We won't even dispute it. That being said, that is all we have got for this particular episode. That is all we've got for this particular season 8. We will catch you all back next week for the kickoff of season 9 and a much better, fingers crossed, card to talk about and all sorts of more fun fuckery. And hopefully, at least some of the fellows come back so we can talk, because I'm sure you guys get tired of just hearing me. I get it. But that's all we've got for this one. So until next time, boys and girls, don't let ignorance stop you. You can root for anything.
Everybody was kung fu fighting. Those kicks were fast as lightning. In fact, it was a little bit frightening. How do I say goodbye to what